this is episode 6 of House of Recaps. If you didn't realize, because these two videos were uploaded at the same time, I just posted House of Recaps number 5, so you might want to go check that out first if you haven't yet, so link in the description. If you have checked it out, then hi, welcome back. For this one I'm going to be talking about House of Dead Ends, House of Webs, House of Fronts, House of Keepers, House of Hacks, House of String, House of Double Cross, and House of Wires. So, House of Dead Ends and House of Webs begins with the other one left off as always. Victor ends up not waking up when Fabian and Nina cut the amulets, so it's like, yes, success, they take the amulets, they run, they're done. Just before they go to sleep, Fabian tries to talk to Nina about the whole Sibuna thing again, but he realizes that she didn't hear anything he said earlier that night, so he kind of chickens out. I was like, aw. I think it's so sweet, because he still likes her, but she doesn't realize it. I just get back together, Sibuna. Come on, guys. Sibuna ends up waking up early so they can leave the house with the amulets before Victor even realizes they're gone. At school, Mara's talking to Jerome and geeking out about how she has this interview with Mr. Sweet soon, and she notices something's wrong with Jerome, so asks him about it, and he ends up telling her about the gem that he has to find. At first, she kind of like judges him for it, because he's like, come on now, you're gonna steal a gem, this is probably what put your dad in jail, but then she realizes that he's doing it because he really wants to like impress his dad and that he really cares for him, and he's kind of like, she's like, oh, you're putting another human being before yourself, and then she hugs him, and it was so cute. And I mean, I don't even ship Jara. I'm sure the Jara fans were like freaking out, but I mean, I am a hardcore Mikara shipper. Anyone who's watched all my videos and seen me tweet and tumble or whatever knows how hard I ship Mikara, and I was awing at that. So it was really sweet. Then at the house we see Victor finally waking up, and the first thing he realizes is that the amulets are gone, so he kind of flips out over that. Then we go to Mara, who's just finishing up her interview with Mr. Sweet, when she realizes that his coat stand in his office is a suit of armor, which is something Jerome had told her about. So she kind of starts thinking about that, and she ends up telling Jerome, so he's pretty happy. Sibuna goes down into the tunnels, but they have to go without Patricia because Patricia's having her first detention with Eddie, and they have to scrub all the shoes and boots clean, so they're kind of just like, chores. But it's petty! Yeah! In the tunnels, Nina ends up being the first one to crawl through the small tunnel, and it's really creepy and scary and dirty, and there's bugs, and there's skulls, and she thinks she hears her grand's voice crying for help, so she's freaking out, but she ends up getting toward the end of the tunnel where there's a lever that she pulls and it opens the huge wall that was blocking their way, so it was good. It leads to more tunnels, and eventually they are confronted with this huge mass of like webs that they have to crawl through, but they have no idea what to do about it. Alfie reaches out and touches one of the strings on the webs, and it ends up stinging his hand, so that adds to the whole danger of the thing, so they have to go back and they just leave the tunnels because they gotta figure out what they're gonna do about it. Back at school, Jerome's been staking out Mr. Sweet's office all day and realizes that even when he does leave, he locks the door every time, so he's trying to figure out what to do, and Alfie agrees that he's going to help him. Petty, meanwhile, is continuing their detention during school hours, and they have this huge pile of manure that Victor's making them use as fertilizer. So they're kind of complaining about that, but it's also really cute because they get into a little like argument and they're like pushing each other into the poop, which is kind of gross, but it's cute too because it's Petty. Everything's cute when it's Petty. Since everyone's at school, Vera ends up snooping through everyone's rooms trying to find any amulets that they might be hiding. Alfie ends up coming up with a plan with Jerome on how he's going to get Mr. Sweet out of his office, and he actually brings in a live goose because Jerome says they need to send him on a wild goose chase, and he took it literally. Back at the house, Vera is successful with her search for the amulets and ends up finding the spare in the dollhouse, so that's not good. Then back at school, the goose chase has begun. Alfie lets the goose run loose. Mr. Sweet comes out and he's all like, that's a goose! Like, really? But, you know, it works because Jerome gets into the office and, yeah. He ends up breaking apart all the armor in an attempt to find the gem, and just as he's trying to start to put it back together, Mr. Sweet is all like, open the door, and he's like, oh, what am I gonna do? And the episode ends there. So, House of Fronts, House of Keepers, we begin with Alfie buying Jerome more time in the office, and Jerome ends up managing to put back the entire armor together, or at least kind of. It's not exactly right, but whatever, Mr. Sweet's not gonna notice, right? He also notices that the gem is on the floor, but just as he's about to go get it, Mr. Sweet comes in. Mr. Sweet locks the goose into his office, and Jerome can't get back in. In the hallways, Joy approaches Fabian and tries to ask him out to the movies, and Fabian's being completely awkward because he doesn't want to say yes, but he doesn't know what to do, and he ends up backing up into his locker, and all these books fall out, and his awkwardness is hilarious. Vera shows Victor that she found the spare amulet, so Victor's really excited about that. Then Fabian's kind of like moping around by himself because he doesn't know what to do about the whole Joy thing when Amber confronts him and is all like, I can help you with all your love problems, so she starts giving him advice. He says what he has to do is not say yes to anything she says, but also not say no to anything she says. Back at the house, we see Victor on the phone talking to someone, but what's important is that he's getting someone to make a forged amulet, so that's not good. So towards the end of the school day now, and Jerome, Alfie, and Mr. Sweet are going back into the office so they can recapture the goose, but it's really only Alfie and Mr. Sweet who are recapturing the goose because Jerome is only concerned about finding the gem. However, the gem is not there, so he's really upset about that. He comes to the conclusion that the goose ate it. Back at the house, Amber and Nina have set up an entire web contraption in the room so Sibuna starts practicing getting through. In the library, there's a scene between Vera and Jasper where they are talking about the collector, and Jasper's starting to get scared about the whole thing, and he doesn't really want to be a part of it, but Vera's kind of pressuring him into it. But the entire time, Trudy is kind of lurking in the library and she overhears everything, but they end up hearing that she's there, so she hides, and Vera ends up going to look for her but doesn't find her, so they end up leaving. Then Trudy sneaks out as fast as she can, and we end up seeing her back at school confronting Mrs. Andrews about it, and they kind of both agree that Vera is creepy, so they're both going to keep their eyes on her. Then we see Alfie and Jerome, who are patiently waiting in their room, staring at the goose. They need the goose to naturally give them the gem, and Alfie ends up ordering pet laxatives to give to the goose to help make things go faster, so they just have to wait for that. Then we see Patricia and Eddie, who are doing more detention chores. I think they're doing more fertilizer stuff. When someone kicks a soccer ball their way and Patricia kicks it back, and they start talking about soccer versus football and kind of arguing about that. And Eddie decides that he needs to prove to Patricia that American football is not horrible. Miraculously, Patricia and Eddie find football padding and helmets and jerseys, and Eddie decides to show her how to tackle, so he kind of just jumps on her, and they're cracking up, and she's like, "That was awesome," and I was like, it was a weird scene. I thought they were going to do something where he's teaching her how to throw a spiral or something, but it was still really cute. Back at the house, Victor finds the package of laxative that Alfie orders, but he decides not to get upset about that because he uses it as an excuse to search the rooms and plant the fake amulet into Nina and Amber's room. Everyone kind of freaks out that there's a room search because everyone's hiding stuff because, Sibuna has their amulets, Jerome and Alfie have the goose, then there's Eddie and Joy and Mara who really don't have anything to hide, but still. After the search, Amber and Nina quickly go check to make sure their amulet is still there, and it is, so they're safe, except it's not the real amulet. Then there's a really cute but short scene between Patricia and Eddie where they're still in their football gear and Patricia's just repetitively hitting him, and then at that moment she realizes that the amulet's gone and she kind of freaks out about that. Joy confronts Fabian when he's sitting down and apologizes for the whole kiss thing that happened, but at the same time admits that she really likes him and wants to see if they could take their friendship to the next level, but Fabian kind of freezes because he's I don't know what to do because Amber said don't say yes but don't say no, so he's maybe, and Joy gets all happy because, maybe is most likely a yes in her mind. Jerome and Alfie managed to hide the goose in their room before Victor finds out, so that was good for them. Then we go outside and see Patricia frantically searching for the amulet, and she can't find it, but what she doesn't notice is that someone else has come and picked it up. And the episode ends there. So House of Hacks, House of Strings begins with Victor finishing up his room search, and he ends up not finding the goose in Alfie and Jerome's room, so that's good for them. Jerome manages to steal the laxative packages without Victor and Vera seeing, so that was also good for them. Patricia comes back from her amulet search, and she gets in trouble for leaving, but nothing really happens to her, except for the fact that Sibuna approaches her and is like, "Hey, we're gonna go down to the tunnels," and she's like, "Crap," but she lies to them and doesn't tell them about the amulet. Then Fabian confronts Amber about how her advice is not working with Joy, and Amber says that he's just gonna have to ignore her. So, in order to practice that, Fabian has to listen to Amber pretend to be Joy, and then ends up just failing at that, so Amber just is Amber, and it's so funny, this scene, the things Amber is saying to try to get Fabian react is so funny, and when Amber stops being a Joy and is just saying things to make him mad, the things that she's saying is all going against nerds, and his face, he's just in there it was so funny, you have to watch his face, it was great. Mrs. Andrews ends up confronting Mara, saying that she wants her to do an investigative report on Vera. Back at the house, Fabian and Joy are doing chores together, and Joy is trying to talk to Fabian the entire time, but he's doing a pretty good job of ignoring her until she jams her finger in this rack, and he's kind of do I ignore her? I don't know what to do, but then the goodness in his heart comes out, and he helps Joy, and Amber's all like, "Grr, what are you doing?" And they kind of end up flirting a little bit, or she's trying to flirt with him for sure. I don't know, it was kind of cute, actually. Jerome finally ends up getting the gem out of the goose and it's all gross and icky, and Mara comes in and is like, ew, let's go wash that. Patricia goes and steals the spare amulet out of the dollhouse and then meets up with Sibuna because they're going to go down in the tunnels. Back to Jerome and Mara in the bathroom, they're washing the gem and Mara accidentally drops it down the drain, so Jerome's kind of pissed at her, but you know, he likes her a lot, so he's kind of like, you know what, it's okay, we'll just get it out, and I don't know, because you know, if it was anyone else, Jerome would have been like really mad, but I think because it was Mara, he's a little more understanding. It was cute. Down in the tunnels, they're getting through the light passage thing when suddenly Patricia is blinded because that spare amulet she got is actually a fake, and then they're kind of freaking out like what happened, so she has to admit that her amulet was actually lost and that was the spare one. So blind Patricia decides to wait in the little study area while Sibuna goes through the tunnels. While Patricia's sitting there, she hears Victor coming down the stairs. She doesn't know it's Victor, but she knows it's someone, so she manages to get through the tunnels blinded to try to warn Sibuna. At the webs, Alfie and Fabian have started going through the webs, and Amber and Nina are kind of like guiding them through, trying to get them through, and they still don't know exactly what they're supposed to do, but then Patricia comes and is like, someone's coming, and they all have to like scramble to get out of there and hide. So Victor shows up, Sibuna has successfully hidden, he's kind of staring at the webs trying to figure out what to do, he doesn't know what to do, he ends up grabbing one of the web pieces and gets stung, so he kind of like freaks out and ends up leaving. Sibuna escapes from their hiding spot, which was just a little secret tunnel thing that they had gotten the lever in, but they do not know who it was, even though they suspect it was Victor. Back in the bathroom, Mara and Jerome are still trying to save the gem. They end up having tools and they're trying to kind of like use plumbing skills to open up the drain and get it out. Vera ends up coming to the bathroom and decides that she's going to help Jerome get it out. Jerome's anxiously waiting outside the girls' bathroom, and Sibuna hears him while they're talking about what happened in the tunnel, so they kind of start to get suspicious that he's up to something even though it's just the gem. Because of course Jerome doesn't want to tell them about the gem. At this point Mara had left Jerome and Vera, and she has a meeting with Mr. Sweet where she is talking about Vera, and the things that he's saying about her is very suspicious, and she starting to question her and like who she is, and it ends up leading her to the decision that she needs to talk to Jasper about her also. Back in the bathroom, Vera ends up finding the gem, but she ends up taking it and telling Jerome that she didn't find anything. And when Jerome leaves, she stares at him and she's all like, how very collectible, so I'm pretty sure this lady is the collector. Either that or the writers are trolls. And finally we have House of Double Cross, House of Wires. This one starts with Amber and Nina talking at school in the morning, and it's all innocent until they see Poppy walking by wearing one of the amulets, so they kind of freak out like, where'd you get that? That's ours. She lies and tells them that Jerome gave it to her, so that makes them even more suspicious about Jerome. Victor's trying to nurse the sting wound that he got the night before, and Vera comes in and tries to help him. He starts telling her how he thinks that he's too old to be doing all these challenges down in the cellar, and she's just like, just wait, the kids will get through this. And Victor starts complaining about the final chapter of the Book of Isis, and she's kind of just like, well, I bet it's at the end of the tunnel, so just wait for the kids and we'll get there. And he's kind of just like, bleh. Good impression of Victor, right? Then we see Jerome talking to Alfie, and he concludes that Vera is the one who stole the gem and that it is not lost down the drain. Then Jerome's talking to Alfie about the gem, and then he realizes that Vera probably stole it because there's no way it would have fallen all the way down the drain. Of course, in the middle of the conversation, Amber and Nina confront him about the necklace, and he's kind of just like, well, yeah, I gave it to Poppy even though he didn't, because he's kind of just trying to defend her, and he tells them that it's finders keepers, losers weepers. But afterwards, Jerome ends up confronting Poppy outside the school, saying that she should really just give them back the necklace because it's the right thing to do. And it was this really sweet, like, brother-sister moment. I really liked the scene a lot, and we also see really good character development with Jerome because Season 1, he wouldn't have been trying to get that necklace back to them, I don't think. So Poppy ends up giving the amulet to Jerome, and he keeps it in his pocket. Fabian and Amber are hanging out in the drama room, and Joy's sitting by herself, and Fabian's kind of just like, alright, you know what, I'm just gonna go to her, tell her how I feel, and be done with it. So he goes to Joy. We don't actually hear what they say, but he comes back to Amber, and she's all like, how'd it go? And he's like, we have a date next Monday, or something like that. It was really funny. And it's kind of sad because, you know, I want Fabina, but I'm not getting too angry about the whole Jabian thing right now. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. So back at the house, Patricia and Eddie are having more detention. Patricia is still blind, and she's attempting to polish things while she's blind, and Eddie notices that. So he's kind of questioning her about that, and is all like, okay, so what do I look like? Can you see me? And then he gets closer, can you see me now? And he keeps getting closer, can you see me now? And she's kind of like, And then they're about to kiss, and it's so cute. I was flipping out the entire time. Hardcore fangirling, and just as he leans in, she's just like, your breath stinks, or something like that. I'm like, ugh. So close. I just want petty. Okay, but it was so cute though. So cute. Back at school, Amber is flipping out at Fabian for agreeing to go on a date with Joy, but he ends up being saved when Nina and Alfie show up and they start talking about the webs and everything. The missing amulet comes into conversation and they start to think it's Jerome, so Alfie tells them how he's looking for this gem and that gives them an idea. Fabian and Nina end up stealing the gem from Vera that they find in her jewelry box and they hide in her room because they know Jerome's going to be looking for it, and they confront him about it when he's in Vera's room. They make a trade, the gem for the amulet, and it was really weird. Like, Fabian and Nina are acting really creepy and evil. They're all like, we know what you want, and I don't know, they were just, I can't imitate it, but they were just being really creepy. They look like villains, even though they're not supposed to be the villains. So we're back at school again, and Jerome and Mara are going to the trophy display area to go finally place the jewel into the shield, but the shield is not there, so Jerome's kind of like, what am I gonna do? Back at the house, Nina went to her room to put the amulet back into the dollhouse when suddenly it starts glowing and she finds another clue about what to do with the spider webs in the wallpaper of the dollhouse. So she's analyzing the clue and suddenly Sankara shows up and she's all like, Nina, you gotta be faster, I need my mask, I control you, and then she makes the mark on Nina's arm like light up, and I think she was like inflicting pain in her, and that was pretty scary because obviously if Sankara can make them hurt and give them tattoos, like what else can she do? I mean, she can kill them, I guess, but what else is she gonna do in between? Once she's back at school, Nina's telling Sibuna about what happened with Sankara, and then she tells them about the clue, and they're trying to figure out what it means. They think it has something to do with the library, so Alfie and Amber agree that they're gonna go check out the library while Fabian and Nina do just internet research. They also try to ponder on who the heck was down in the cellar when they were down there that night, and they can't figure out if it was Jerome or Victor. Jerome ends up going to Mr. Sweet to ask about the Frobisher Shield, and he says that the shield is like an award that you have to win for sports, and that after the gem was stolen, the school's sports history just went downhill and they got really bad at it, so they were never able to win the shield back. Makes sense why Mick had to go to a super good sports school, because apparently the school sucks at sports. So thanks, Mr. Sweet, you made Mick move to Australia. Thanks a lot. In the hallways, Eddie starts helping Patricia navigate her way through because he thinks that she's still blind, but she's not, so she kind of like flips out on him, and they're kind of bickering, but then Eddie calms down and he's like, alright, you know what, I'm putting my force field down, let's talk about that kiss, you almost kissed me, I think we should give it another shot. And then Patricia kind of snaps at him and is like, oh no, and he's like, you know what, fine, whatever, and he gets kind of angry at that and walks away. But he pretty much just admitted that he likes her, so I was like, oh, petty. Mara then goes to have an interview with Jasper after having that interview with Mr. Sweet, and she pretty much gets no information about Jasper because he refuses to speak about Vera, so that makes her even more suspicious. Back at school, Patricia is complaining about Eddie, and she's like, oh, you know, he didn't have the right to do that, and she's talking to Joy, and Joy's kind of like, wow, you have it bad. So then she's like, yeah, I know, and we come to learn that Patricia actually likes Eddie, and every time she tries to talk about it and talk to him, it ends up coming out as, like, mean, and it was so cute, and I'm like, yes, okay, you guys both like each other, just get together. And the best part about that scene was that Eddie was eavesdropping the entire time, so I just want my petty, we're so close, guys. After the interview with Jasper, Mara decides that she needs to take matters into her own hands, so she starts snooping in Vera's room. She ends up taking the ISIS chapter that she has hidden, and also some other files about her, information about her, and just as she's about to leave, Vera catches her. Vera doesn't know that she took anything, but she does yell at her and threaten her a lot, and Vera's being like really, really creepy, so I'm sure that's making Mara even more suspicious. So Mara just like gets out of there as fast as she can, and while she's running through the hallway to just leave, she accidentally bumps into Amber and Alfie and drops the ISIS chapter on the floor, but doesn't realize it. Turns out Amber and Alfie were running to a Sibuna meeting, and we find out that they found nothing in the library, but Fabian did get some good information in his research. He found out that Frobisher is a last name given to armor typically, or back in the old days anyway, so they think that the clue has something to do with the Frobisher Smythes, and that leads them to look behind a picture of them that is in the dining room downstairs. Meanwhile, Victor's lurking through the hallways when suddenly he finds that Book of Isis chapter that Mara drops, and he's like, yes, the last chapter! And I know I shouldn't be happy that he found it, but I'm happy that he found it because I feel so bad for him that he's being controlled by Vera, and I just want something to go his way, so this is going his way. It's good. So Sibuna's downstairs, they've got the picture off the wall, and they have the string that holds the picture there, and in the clue it mentions something about a silver string, so they decide to pull it, and suddenly we see a shadow of a spider on the wall, and it's like this huge thing, and then the episode ends. So that is the end of House of Recaps episode 6. Hope you liked it. As always, links in the doobly-doo about, you know, my Twitter, Tumblr, all that if you want to follow me. I typically talk to anyone who talks to me, so we could go discuss, it'll be fun. No comment question right now because I can't think of anything, but you got 2 vlogs today, so... Alright, so see everyone soon, hopefully next week. Sibuna!